Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me here, Freeform Fridays with Conversations with Taz. As you can see, we are taking back what is ours in full force. No more eminent domain over here. Woo! Mm, that's how you start July 2022 right there. Now we got some updates. We have some blonde reacts. We got some jokey jokes tonight. You know how we do on Freeform Fridays. Anything goes. And getting into the first order of business today, coming from abc7chicago.com. Just keep your return. Store chains consider paying you not to bring back unwanted items. The chaotic mix of record fuel prices and an unending supply chain crisis has retailers considering the unthinkable. Instead of returning your unwanted items, just keep them. In recent weeks, some of the biggest store chains, including Target, Walmart, Gap, American Eagle, Outfitters, and others have reported in their latest earning calls that they have too much inventory of stuff ranging from workout clothes, springtime jackets, and hoodies to garden furniture and bulky kids' toys. It's costing them tons of money to store it. Now, add on to the glut another category of product that stores have to deal with: returns. So instead of piling returned merchandise onto this growing inventory heap, stores are considering just handing customers their money back and letting them hang on to the stuff they don't want. It would be a smart strategic initiative, said Bert Flickinger, retail expert and managing director of retail consultancy Strategic Resource Group. Retailers are stuck with excess inventory of unprecedented levels. They can't afford to take back even more of it. Return products are handled in a number of different ways, he said. Retailers take back merchandise from the customer, evaluate it, and if it's in good condition, put it back on the shelf at the same or lesser price. They can refurbish damaged returns and sell them for less or offload them to liquidators to resell. They also can sell returned products to foreign liquidators for sale in Europe, Canada, or Mexico. Given the situation at the ports and the container shortages, sending product overseas isn't really an option, says Flickinger. Lastly, retailers can hire third-party firms to handle all aspects of merchandise returns for them. Each of these options, however, tack on additional costs for retailers, he said. So it's looking like if you got some stuff sitting around and you need to return it, check with the major retailers. You may not even have to take the merchandise back. They have no room for it. All these catastrophes going on seems like it's working out in the favor of the consumers. Finally, something in economics is working out for the consumers. Let's see. And when will this stop news? We have coming from the Akron Beacon Journal. Akron to release body cam footage Sunday of Jalen Walker fatal shooting by police. Akron will release body cam footage of the shooting death of 25-year-old Jalen Walker by Akron police on Sunday. Mayor Dan Horrigan and Police Chief Steve Milet will host a press conference 1 p.m. Sunday to talk about Walker's death and to provide further details and to review video footage of the shooting. Body cam video footage will be released immediately after the press conference, the city said in a news release. Milet will meet with members of the Walker family and their legal representation before the press conference to allow them to review the footage. The family on Thursday held a press conference at St. Ashworth Temple Church in which their attorneys said the family demanded accountability from Akron police while also calling for peace, understanding, and justice. If you are not familiar with this police-related shooting, Walker was riddled with 60 bullets. He was shot at 90 times. His body is currently unrecognizable. Even war does not denote someone being riddled with 60 bullets. No, just not at all. Hey, you know what? On that note, let's go to this Second Amendment video, and then we'll talk on the flip side.
They put the Second Amendment in the Constitution so we can overthrow a tyrannical government.
What if I told you it was actually so that we could be pressed into service so that we could assist a tyrannical government?
All right, libtard, how you gonna spin this one?
The same way I destroy all your historical arguments with primary historical sources.
I can't wait to hear this mess.
You know how the Second Amendment starts off with a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state?
Yeah, by God, even better than you do.
Well, here's the thing. In the first draft, it originally said being necessary for the security of a free nation.
Okay.
Well, the convention boys from down south, they didn't like that word nation being in that amendment. Patrick Henry from Virginia stood up and said, no, you can't use our militias for national stuff. They're for local uprisings. They're our slave patrols. They keep our slaves in line. If you go pulling our militias out of our states, the slaves will revolt and they'll kill us all. So instead of being necessary for the security of a free state, being necessary for the security of a slave state would have been more accurate.
And you know why so many people who grab hold to the Second Amendment and then simultaneously say that the Constitution can't be changed, that the Constitution has never been changed because they don't understand the definition of the word amendment? It's because of the educational system within the United States. Within the federal government, we have a Secretary of Education, but no nationalized education. And we know that due to the Daughters of the Confederacy, the South loves to whitewash and glorify uh, the antebellum era, the Reconstruction era, Jim Crow in the North and the South, and make it seem like everybody was just kumbaya and just holding hands and dancing around and having fancy balls and all these different things. Like it was just one big old party. It hasn't stopped. And they're trying to further this fantastical, mystical version of history to keep bigotry alive, to keep division flowing. Because if you believe that everything was rosy and that, chattel slavery wasn't that bad and racism ended with the election of Obama, or because we have a handful of black and brown millionaires or even billionaires, but you still want to start the history lesson and end it with white people and putting black and brown accomplishments under the names and guise and faces of white people, it's not really going to do much. And what do I mean by they're furthering this? Coming from NBCnews.com, proposal to teach slavery as involuntary relocation sent to Texas Education Board. A group of 9 educators submitted the idea. Yeah, you heard that right. 9 educators. It's like we say, all money ain't good money. All collegiate education isn't good collegiate education. A group of 9 educators submitted the idea to the State Board of Education, which directed the group to revisit the language. The Texas Tribune reported. Coming out of Austin, Texas, public schools in Texas would describe slavery to second graders as involuntary relocation under a new social studies standard proposed to the state's education board. A group of 9 educators submitted the idea to the State Board of Education as a part of Texas's effort to develop new social studies curriculum, according to the Texas Tribune. The once-a-decade process updates what children learn in the state's nearly 8,900 public schools. The board, with unanimous consent, directed the work group to revisit that specific language, Kevin Ellis, chair of the Texas Board of Education, said in a statement, according to the Tribune. Board member Aisha, I think that's how you pronounce it, Davis, a Democrat who represents Dallas and Fort Worth, raised concerns during a June 15th meeting. Oh, right before Juneteenth. Y'all bold. Meeting that the term wasn't a fair representation of the slave trade. It is not. The board sent the draft back for revision, urging the educator group to carefully examine the language used to describe events. I can't say what their intention was, but that's not going to be acceptable, Davis told the Tribune on Thursday. Part of the proposed draft standards obtained by the Tribune say students should compare journeys to America, including voluntary Irish immigration and involuntary relocation of African people during colonial times. Well, at least they're not pushing the narrative that Irish were once slaves. So that's a step in the right direction. But then they kicked us back like 255 steps with involuntary relocation of African immigrants during colonial days. First of all, stop calling it colonial days. Call it the antebellum days. Call it the chattel slavement days. Call it the enslavement days. Call it the beginning of oppression. Call it, oh, the start of capitalism via the sale of human bodies. The board is considering curriculum changes 1 year after Texas passed a law to eliminate topics from school that made students feel discomfort. No, that made white parents feel discomfort about the truth of their ancestors, as well as their meemaws, papaws, and mamas and daddies. Discomfort. They don't want nobody to know that there are pictures all over the internet and in archives of newspapers and magazines and old newsreels of their parents and grandparents throwing stones and hosing children. They don't want their children and grandchildren to know that they're sitting comfortably right now because their family used to own people, or that their families were a part of the original slave patrol. They don't want their children who are backing the blue and want to become a blue blood to know the actual messed up, racially charged origin of the term blue blood. Because the whiter you were, the paler you were, which meant you were not outside working or tending to the fields. You were so white they could see your blue veins, hence blue bloods. Exactly. Discomfort is how change comes about. The whole point of protesting is to make people uncomfortable to take notice. But what do they always say? This doesn't make me comfortable. This doesn't fit into my schedule. Maybe you could do something more that makes me feel comfortable. No, because nobody is worried about the non-white children that have to sit in these classes and have their history denigrated and whitewashed. Nobody's worried about the discomfort of non-white children who sit in class and are told that their ancestors wasn't worth crap. Nobody's worried about the discomfort of non-white children who have a cap put on as early as pre-K as to what they can accomplish in life. No one's worried about the discomfort of non-white children as they're bullied for being non-white. Who's standing up for the discomfort of Asian children as other children are making fun of the dishes that they bring to school to eat? Who's worried about the discomfort of little brown children because they may or may not have an accent, or they may have parents whose first language is not English? Who's worried about the discomfort of Black children who are still getting pet like animals, like they're the school dog or mascot? That are still having little white kids come up and rub their skin to see if it's going to come off or see if they taste like chocolate. If our children are old enough that we have to explain to them how to survive the police, survive teachers, survive medical professionals, little Kyle, little Kylie, little Karen, little Bailey, little Jaden, Aiden, Hayden, Braden, and Shaden can learn the true history of the United States. And then maybe we can have a nation where everybody can feel comfortable everywhere, where everybody can go out and not wonder if they're going to make it home. But they didn't just stop there. Mm-mm-mm. Oh no. If you think they just want to change the whole channel on chattel slavery, also coming out of NBCnews.com, Wisconsin school board members dismiss book about Japanese American incarceration as being unbalanced, parents say. Parents are pushing back after a committee whose members sit on a Wisconsin school board did not move forward with approving a book about Japanese American incarceration during World War II for a sophomore English literature class. Muskego, Norway school board members said including the book would require balance with perspective from the United States government, according to two parents in the district. They also said that minutes of a heated meeting with board members about the topic were not posted and that a video of another board meeting was reportedly edited. As of Thursday, almost 200 parents, alumni, community members, and staffers of Waukesha, I hope I'm saying that correctly, County District had signed a petition demanding the committee reconsider Julie Otsuka's book, When the Emperor Was Divine, which was not moved forward during the early stages of the approval process June 13th. They doing everything right before Juneteenth. Lord. Board members also reportedly said a book cannot be chosen for the sake of adding diversity to the curriculum. They're just taking a bullhorn and saying every quiet part out loud with their whole chest. Whoo, child. Board members also reportedly said a book cannot be chosen for the sake of adding diversity to the curriculum, said the parents who spoke with board members and attended the school board meeting this month. And Zilk, a parent in the district who kept a detailed log of her interactions with board members and shared them for this article, said discussions around the book began months ago after the district's curriculum planning committee approved the novel in April. The book was subsequently sent to a group of 3 board members who approved educational materials before their purchase by the school board, known as the Educational Services Committee. Excuse me. Rather than move forward with the book, the committee, which is made up of school board vice president Terry Boyer, treasurer Tracy Blair, and member Lori Contney, requested more time for review, the parents said. Zilke said she reached out to 2 board members for a rationale and eventually had a conversation the next month with Boyer, who sits on the committee. She said that in that exchange, Boyer said adding the book alongside the class existing inclusion of Farewell to Manzanar, a separate memoir about Japanese American incarceration during World War II, to the curriculum created an unbalanced account of history. Giving more than one perspective on historical events actually makes it more balanced. And these are the educators. Are they just giving participation certificates, participation diplomas, and participation degree? Like, is everybody just getting an honorary degree to go and either practice medicine or educate young people nowadays? Like, Maybe it's because my education within the United States started out within a PIDEA program. And if you are not familiar with PIDEA, basically it boils down to a critical thinking program. Every single one of my classes had a lab in it, which means we had an extra hour to go over and take what we learned in the text and put it to use in the world and relate it. Like, we had seminars to discuss literary works that we read, and we were tasked with tying it into other works that we read, whether in class or outside of class, and citing sources. We didn't just get a book and we weren't told, oh, what was the plot, what was the author's name, what was the moral of the story. No, we had to dig deeper. We were taught to look up the author and look up the intent of the author behind the book, because that is imperative when you're reading anything, whether fiction or nonfiction. But babe, ain't woo, ain't no way, ain't no way. Mm-mm. 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 As much as I study history, If somebody would have said 10 years ago to me that the United States Supreme Court and politicians on the federal and gubernatorial level would be working to rewind the hands of time, especially women that want to rewind the clock to a point where even white women who were given rights before many people of color, even when white women didn't have rights, I would have said, who performed a backrooms lobotomy on you with the coating of electroshock therapy? And what really gets me are all of the white women who love to proclaim, well, my grandma or my great grandma, they were an abolitionist. They fought during this. They were on the front lines with MLK. Where are you now? You allowed this to happen. You want to puff out your chest. We're the descendants of the witches you couldn't burn. No, you are the descendants of the people who lied on the witches who were burned. You're the descendants of grand wizards. You're the descendants of the worst of other nations that, because they couldn't have their way there, fled to here. You're the descendants of people who were able to survive because of Black and brown people. You're the descendants of people who took plagues and disease around the globe and had to be taught by Black and brown people how to eradicate it. But y'all, you know, it wouldn't be a Conversations with Taz if we didn't have a Marjorie Taylor Greene story. So, buckle up. Here we go.
So what was Marjorie Taylor Greene's response to today's hearing? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So first, before the hearings even started, she retweeted the House Judiciary GOP, which was trying to push out to not watch the hearings, to watch Gunsmoke instead on TV Land. Okay, did Marjorie take that advice? She did not. She clearly was watching the hearing because she started tweeting at 2:01 and tweeted a lot. I mean, first she has this one that says, how many times President Trump asked for the National Guard? That would be 0. He asked for the National Guard 0 times. Because if he had, he's the president, they would have sent him. Are you saying his Defense Department ignored him? Is that what you're saying, Marge? But anyway, that's not even the best ones. So here we go, calling Miss Hutchinson a liar. And then she tweeted this about how he was in the Beast and couldn't reach the driver. Except he wasn't in the Beast. He was in an SUV. We've all been in SUVs, you know. You can easily reach the driver. You can reach the steering wheel. But, so she retweeted this diagram of the Beast. Let's look at that a little closer. So if you zoom in on the top left corner, it talks about how up to 4 passengers with a glass partition, only Trump has a switch to lower it. So if he was in the Beast, which he wasn't, but even if the glass partition comes down and only he can control it, can reach right through. So she just goes on and on and on, and clearly it's been pointed out to her that he wasn't in the limo, he was in the SUV. And so then she says, well, she called it the Beast, so therefore she's wrong. She doesn't even know what the SUV is called. It doesn't have a name, it's just the SUV. Not the Beast. Good try, Marge. You know, amazingly, she remembered everything that happened around January 6th and didn't answer every question with, I don't remember, I don't recall. Which one sounds like the person who's lying? Don't remember or telling exactly what happened? And then she calls for the Secret Service agents to be interviewed. They have been. And if you think the committee put her testimony out public, if they've testified to something completely different, you're probably wrong. But I guess we'll see eventually.
And while Marjorie is still holding tight to defend Trump, coming from HuffPost.com, right-wing news site declares Trump unfit to be anywhere near power ever again. New testimony from the recent January 6th committee hearings shows that former President Donald Trump is a disgrace who is unfit to be anywhere near power again, according to right-wing news website The Washington Examiner. Cassidy Hutchinson, an aide to Mark Meadows, while he was Trump's White House chief of staff, gave jaw-dropping testimony Tuesday that indicated Trump knew his supporters were armed and potentially violent, but encouraged them to help him overthrow the 2020 election anyway. She also testified that a Secret Service agent told her that Trump tried to grab the wheel of his armored limousine to turn back to the Capitol when the Secret Service informed him that they'd be unable to take him there on January 6th. The Examiner noted that Hutchinson, at 25, had already worked at the highest levels of Republican politics and was a conservative Trumpist true believer and was a tremendously credible one at that. Excuse me, what Hutchinson relayed was disturbing. She gave believable accounts of White House awareness that the planned January 6th rally could turn violent. She repeated testimony that Trump not only knew that then Vice President Mike Pence's life had been credibly threatened that day, but also that he was somewhere between uncaring and actually approving of Pence's danger, the site said. Before going on to relay other shocking elements of Hutchinson's testimony, including his episode in the presidential motorcade and his fits of rage throwing food at walls. Hutchinson's testimony confirmed a damning portrayal of Trump as unstable, unmoored, and absolutely heedless of his sworn duty to effectuate a peaceful transition of presidential power, the site concluded. I told y'all. Trump is a disgrace. Republicans have far better options to lead the party in 2024. No one should think otherwise, much less support him ever again. And right now, Trump, it's said, little political birdies on the street, are saying that Trump is shaking in his boots regarding the fact that Ron DeSantis has taken hold of the GOP's top talking points in a way that is appeasing the ruling minority within the party. So Trump right now is terrified that should he run in 2024, he won't receive the GOP nomination, that Ron DeSantis will. Now, there is no lesser of evil between the two of them. Zero. So I don't know. Yeah. I equate the GOP right now with the Jonestown cult, because there were people, excuse me, that were with Jones all the way up, literally until the Kool-Aid was poured. Not while they were sitting there and the sermon was going on and in the front, they were mixing it with the cyanide in it. It was at that moment, that final hour, that 11th hour, that the light bulb finally went off. And just like right now, with all the threats that Trump and his cronies, his top current cronies, because we know he has a revolving door of cronies, he has zero loyalty to anybody. And if evidence comes out or he points the finger at someone, he acts like he doesn't know them and he writes them off as being incompetent, after he put so much power in their hands. But now they're being forced. At Jonestown, there were people who literally had guns to their heads to poison their children, to poison themselves. There were people who had cyanide tablets pushed down their throat. There were people who were just flat out shot. Sometimes it is not until the literal 11th hour that light bulb goes off, when people have gone so far that they can't get out of the hole. All they can do is rub the lotion on because they're tired of getting the hose again. Ooh, and for my fellow coffee drinkers, here's a little something for you.
Name one thing in your industry or profession that the general public would be shocked to know about. So I used to work at a factory that makes Keurig pods, and we would just take a whole bunch of coffee all mixed together and put it in different pods. Some of them would say Dunkin' Donuts, some of them would say McDonald's, some of them would be off brands, but all only difference between the different pods was flavors. If they were flavored, all the rest of them were all the same coffee.
I've been telling y'all when y'all want to get snooty that you have to have certain labels in your house. The labels really don't mean anything. They really, really don't. Don't be running out here spending all your coins to have a certain name to be sitting in your kitchen. Because who's in your kitchen but you? And if anybody comes into your kitchen to complain about what you have on your shelves, that means that they are not comfortable in your residence, and your residence is supposed to be comfortable for you, not everyone else. It's just my 2 cents. I'm going to put it on the table. You can pick it up or you can leave it. And Clarence Thomas, the diarrhea mouth of 2022, just cannot shut up. Coming from the independent.co.uk, Clarence Thomas wrongly suggests aborted children cells were used to make COVID vaccines in SCOTUS opinion. When I tell y'all they are just blatantly just lying and dumbing themselves down for their constituencies, whoo, child. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has suggested that COVID vaccines were developed using cells from aborted children. Now, I don't know how you're supposed to abort a child, because a child is what's outside of the womb that's traveled through the birth canal. So I don't know how you. I digress. The remarks by Mr. Thomas came on Thursday as a part of a dissenting opinion on the Supreme Court's refusal excuse me, to hear a case challenging New York's vaccine mandate based on religion. But the Pope already told all these folks that they had to get vaccinated. And not only does Clarence Thomas know that he's wrong, he's turning his position of SCOTUS into one of political influence, which is a huge no-no. The SCOTUS is supposed to be unbiased and nonpartisan. You cannot continue to use your personal opinions, personal beliefs, and political ideologies when considering Supreme Court cases. And he's doing all of that out in the open. Like completely out in the open, not even trying to hide it. Not even trying to smoke and mirror us out of it. It's no different than doctors that are like, oh, I can't perform this procedure on you because of my religion. You went into a science-based field. You took the Hippocratic Oath. This has nothing to do with your personal feelings, your warm and fuzzies, your depression, your religion, your lack thereof, your spirituality, none of that. It's based on facts, science. That's it. Who you pray to or do not pray to is not a factor in your position. Because I promise you, if these same people who want to hide behind their religion that they only practice when it's convenient for them, meaning they don't really practice it, they just say it. Because they don't even attend Bedside Baptist. Or couch Catholicism. I bet you if retail workers and food service people started saying, "Ooh, I see you wearing a cross. Due to my religion, I cannot serve you." I'm sorry. That line over there that's wrapped all around the store, that's for the Christians. Yeah, that's for the Christians. This line is for the non-Christians. No, that's store policy based on the owner's preferences and their religious beliefs. They believe that you all should just have one line. Oh, you wanted something from that side of the store? Oh, I'm sorry. That's not a Christian side of the store. Sorry. They will be screaming about the ridiculousness of that, how unfair and unjust it is. See, that's when there would be a war on Christianity. See, the only war surrounding Christianity is the war that United States Christians are waging upon everyone else. And it's not even true blue, really knowledgeable, studied to show thyself approved by the Lord Christians. It's the ones using Christianity for profit, for popularity, for political gain. Just like the good Christians right now going, well, if you're considering an abortion, we'll adopt your baby. What about all the babies and children that are up for adoption now? What about all the babies and children that are in foster care? What about all the babies that are suffering from a formula shortage? What about all the babies that you're actively trying to cut Medicare and Medicaid for? What about all the babies you're trying to cut SNAP benefits for? What about all the babies whose parents have to work 3 or 4 jobs because you refuse to approve a livable wage nationwide? What about all the babies currently living under the poverty line that you all are stealing out of the arms of mothers and fathers to go pay someone else? You found the money for that. You found the approval for that, to go pay someone else, generally a white savior, to go take care of those babies. And do nothing to help them with the trauma that they've endured. So when they have a mental health crisis or develop an addiction or an eating habit or behavioral problems, you then deem them unwanted, in need of rehoming, defective. But what happened to pro-life? What happened to save the children? But that goes back to misinformation and miseducation and just flat out BS. So let's clarify one other thing. A few slavery lies. Be back in a minute.
7 lies about slavery that racists love spreading and people actually believe. And I'm not gonna lie, some of these even caught me off guard. Lie number 1, that few whites actually own slaves. What's the truth? Nearly a third of white families owned slaves or participated as even overseers. More importantly, the entire society, norms, businesses, industries, etc. were all built around slavery, meaning all were benefited from it. Lie number 2, blacks willingly fought for the Confederacy during the Civil War and were happy to do so. People use this lie to argue that many enslaved people were happy and loyal. The truth is, enslaved were often forced to cook and clean for Confederate soldiers. Whites didn't want slaves with guns initially. They weren't all soldiers at first, and it definitely wasn't always willing. When they were accepted on the battlefields, many wanted the freedom that fighting in the war would give them or family. Slave masters also signed up their slaves in their place. FYI, Abraham Lincoln would eventually reveal that had it not been for the Negro soldiers, the Union would have lost the war. That means that the North wouldn't have been free without us. Lie number 3, house slaves had it much better than field slaves. Both faced hardships. Most of the house slaves were women and children who faced constant brutality, including frequent rape from the mistresses and masters. They were expected to be near and on call more than those in the field, meaning mistreatment was often more frequent and consistent. This is especially true if the master made you one of his choices. You could also face the wrath of the mistress if she knew her husband desired you or bore his children. And rape of house slaves was so common that black Americans today have an average of 16.7% white DNA. This is no matter your complexion. Lie number 4, enslaved people were timid, docile, and or loyal. This is part of the happy, content slave myth. It's connected to stereotypes that blacks thrive under tight control with simple, basic physical tasks because of lack of intelligence. The truth is, we fought back consistently, from the ship revolts before even reaching the Americas to thousands of rebellions over the centuries. We had to deal with slavery, but never accepted it. Lie number 5, Lincoln wanted us free. Abraham Lincoln didn't order troops south to free enslaved people. Whites love saying that Lincoln freed the slaves, but he was just trying to keep the U.S. from splitting into two. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation only set some enslaved folks free, and in private, he made it clear he thought they were inferior. Lie number 6, the Civil War wasn't about enslavement. Whitewashed versions of history want us to believe the Civil War was about honorable men protecting their communities and Southern heritage. This too is a lie. In actuality, it was conscious effort to extend our bondage. Mississippi lawmakers even said this: our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. And lie number 7, slavery was abolished in 1965 and was well for Black Americans. The law still permitted slavery if you were locked up, so a lot of them became victims of the convict lease system.
Now I want to add on just a few caveats there. Now I know a lot of racist white people love to bring up, they say, well, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. He was not. Abraham Lincoln created and ran under his own political party. He was a Democratic Republican, which was completely different, because you have to think there were Democratic Republicans, Democrats, Republicans, Whigs. We did not start off with just a two-party system. Why we diminished down to that, no one will ever know. Additionally, Abraham Lincoln was more in favor of removing Black people from the United States and sending them back to a colony, Liberia, in Africa, in the continent of Africa. That's what he wanted. And there were a lot of Black people who were like, okay, shoot, I'm out of here. There were other Black people that were like, no, we built this country. Our blood, sweat, and tears is literally in this land. We're not going. And you had Black people who had children with Latine people, with indigenous people. They had created families here. They weren't going anywhere. And you had Black people that were like, no, I am going to find my children, my mother, my father, my brothers that they had been separated from. Some were able to. Some died never knowing where their family went, if their family survived. But he runs the truth. Now, little, I guess you would consider it pop culture news. And I hate to say it, in this one, I never really agree with Kanye West, but I think he kind of has a point. Before you come for my neck, let's hear out the article. Okay, coming from Power 105.5 FM, Kanye West orders local restaurant College Dropout Burgers to change logo and menu names. An Australian burger joint is reportedly being forced to rebrand after receiving a cease and desist letter from Kanye West. On Thursday, June 30th, Australian news outlet West Australia Today reported that local burger joint owner Mark Elcuri, hope I pronounced that correctly, founder of College Dropout Burgers, has gotten backlash from his idol Kanye West in the form of threatened legal action if he does not rebrand his restaurant. Aside from the title, which is a reference to Ye's debut album, The College Dropout, the restaurant has menu items that allude to Ye songs and LPs, such as The Gold Digger, a fried chicken burger, the Good Morning Breakfast burger, and a Cheesus burger. It's pretty hard being a Kanye West fan with this situation. We have to respect his wishes and move forward, El Curry told the paper. This right here is a picture of El Curry. Let me remove this banner. That is Mark El Curry. Number one, it wasn't in the best taste for you to take a Black man's song and turn it into a chicken sandwich. Two, you should have reached out for a licensing agreement or partnership instead of using the popularity of songs and LP titles that you know will be associated with Kanye West in order to make a profit. Black people are tired of having their creativity stolen, rebranded, or oftentimes not even rebranded, and sold to the masses for non-Black people to make a profit off of. We are tired of creating millionaires and generational wealth for other people as we struggle to not get community guidelines violations online, let alone get our artistry and our hard work out to the masses. It is difficult for us to organically build our businesses, our brands, our names. And once we get an inkling of success, you are here to pull the rug underneath us, take our most popular, our most notable portions of us, and mass market it. Because once again, everybody wants to be Black till it's time to be Black. Enough is enough. But let's get into something a little lighter. Little. Everybody complaining about Disney's latest movies and all this other stuff. Let's remember what a lot of us grew up on. Did you think we forgot about all of that? But we were all just kikiing about as kids, like, Hootie, that's so funny. All right. We got 2 blonde reacts that we can get into tonight. Here's the first one.
For me personally, there's just some things that I'm gonna have to take to the grave. But not everyone's like me. So someone tweeted, tell us about a time that you did everything and he still didn't choose you. Now me personally, I would keep this to myself. But again, not everyone's like me. So here we go. Someone commented and said, I paid for weekly trips for him and his homeboys, cooked and cleaned, housed his friend that got kicked out his mama house, and bought him some clothes, wrote positive affirmations on his Facebook wall every morning, supported his heroin addiction, cried to his mom, all for him to try to hide the fact that he had some girl pregnant from one of the trips that she had paid for. And that's not even the half. I went to phlebotomy school for him so I could steal needles from work for his heroin addiction. She's taken out a business loan on his behalf, and she's still paying it back. Literally gave him her old Acura TL car just for him to wreck it, and some more stuff. She took him to a strip club for his birthday and paid a stripper of his choice $600 to have a threesome with them, and paid for a hotel room only for him to send her to the gas station for some cigars. And then when she came back, she was locked out the rest of the night of the hotel that she paid for with the stripper she paid for. Oh wait, there's more. Then a week later, they were having to go to the clinic because the girl gave him chlamydia and he didn't know or tell her. And he didn't have insurance, so she spent $300 on the doctor's visit and meds. And then he broke up with her, saying he has a family to take care of. Mind you, it's a family that he started on one of the trips that she paid for. And that he has priorities and that she doesn't fit into his priorities. But he wanted to remain good friends with her. Jesus himself could not have pried that information out of me. But I wish her the best.
Ladies, I mean this with all due respect. Stop with this adage of if I do everything correct for him, he'll stay with me. First of all, we are all individuals. There is no one size fits all for any relationship. You have to look at each individual relationship as it is. Figure out what works best for the two people in the relationship. And taking care of a grown ass man is not doing everything for you. No, you are not his mama. And taking it, no, if he needs a loan, he can take it out himself. And risking prison time stealing it. I'm pretty sure the only thing she left out of that story is the stuff that he stole out of her house to sell for his heroin. I'm pretty sure that's the and I'm pretty sure everything that she was doing for him, he was taking to the other woman that he ended up having a child with. Being a pushover, it baby, I would have taken that to my grave. Actually, I would have taken it to his grave because let me. And how did they find out he had chlamydia? And why didn't she just go back down to the office? She was the one that put the name in her room. Just go get another key. Like, girl, how hard did you bump your head? You know, you know. Look, I, I literally got. Look, I don't. What the? Mm. Jesus, take the wheel and beat these folks with it. Just. Where is the rapture, Lord? Where it? See, this is why we can't nice things. Let's go to the final blind react and let's hope this one is better. Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
I'm going to read 19 complaints from 19 very entitled individuals who went on vacation. Here we go.
Oh, Lord.
Number 1, they should not allow topless sunbathing on the beach. It was very distracting for my husband who just wanted to relax.
No, he didn't. Bet you it was his
On my holiday to India, I was disgusted to find that almost every restaurant served curry. I don't like spicy food.
Then don't go to a spicy country.
We went on holiday to Spain and had a problem with the taxi drivers as they were all Spanish.
You think?
We booked an excursion to a water park, but no one told us we had to bring our own swimsuits and towels. We assumed it would be included in the price.
You go to
The beach was too sandy.
Wait,
we had to clean everything.
Wait a minute. Even in the United States, they don't provide you with bathing. Like, what? Do you think because you're American, they were just gonna? Oh my goodness! Let's rewind this. Jesus, come on, y'all.
It would be included in the price. The beach was too sandy. We had to clean everything when we returned to our room.
Now, this is why people outside of the United States have so many questions about the United States. This is why the United States is looked at as the Florida man of the world.
Well, we found the sand was not like the sand in the brochure. Your sand showed the sand is white, but it was more yellow.
It's called a flash. Got a flash in the picture, but okay.
It's lazy for the shopkeepers to close in the afternoon. I often needed to buy things during siesta time. This should be banned.
Or adjust and stop going to the store at the same time when you know the store. You know what? This is probably the same person while they're in the United States goes to the store at 8:58, knowing the store closes at 9 o'clock. Jesus.
No one told us there would be fish in the water. The children were scared.
What did they think was in the ocean? What they don't have creeks and rivers and lakes. Lord have mercy. I guess TLC was right. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Don't go chasing vacation spots. Jesus.
Although the brochure said there was a fully equipped kitchen, there was no egg slicer in the drawers.
And they won't get the irony of wherever they moved into that had a fully equipped kitchen didn't have an egg slicer until they purchased one. But okay. Because you can't just take a knife and slice it yourself.
I think it should be explained in the brochure that the local convenience stores does not sell proper biscuits like custard creams and ginger nuts.
Okay. Real quick. There are I've met so many people, especially white Southern people, who believe that whatever they call a dish is the only way that it comes. It can't be anything else. They will make up other names for different things. Like there was one person that just believed that gravy was one thing. Like it was made one way, looked one way, that was it. Because I was trying to explain the gravy that's in red beans and white rice, and they're arguing me up and down. No, that's not gravy. Then what is it? Horse piss?
The roads were uneven and bumpy, so we could not read the local guidebook during the bus ride to the resort. Because of this, we were unaware of many things that would have made our holiday more fun.
Say you've never ridden a bus before ever in your life, or tried to do homework in a car, or read a book anywhere. And once you got to the resort, you just put the book down, and that was the only time you could have perused the parameters of the pamphlet. That's woo.
It took us 9 hours to fly home from Jamaica to England. It took the Americans only 3 hours to get home.
It's just a white people epidemic. It is.
This seems unfair. I compared the size of our 1-bedroom suite to our friend's 3-bedroom, and ours was significantly smaller.
You think?
The brochure stated, no hairdressers at the resort. We're trainee hairdressers, and we think they knew and made us wait longer for service.
How would they know? And if you all are hairdresser trainees, why don't you just do your own hair? And if there are no hairdressers at the resort, that means you had to go off of the resort to find a salon. You know what? Let's keep going.
I don't even want to act out the next one, but I'm going to read it. When we were in Spain, there were too many Spanish people there. The receptionist spoke Spanish. The food was Spanish. No one told us that there would be so many foreigners.
Did they think it was an extension of what? The UK or the United States? Which one of the U's? Which one of the U countries? Which one of the U countries? Which one of the U countries? But racism is dead. White people are the superiors. Y'all can give me a stroke.
Really? We had to line up outside to catch the boat, and there was no air conditioning. Come on.
It's called a breeze.
It is your duty as a tour operator to advise us on noisy and unruly guests before we travel.
Yeah, because they know that would happen.
I was bitten by a mosquito. The brochure did not mention mosquitoes.
Jesus,
come on,
Mary
people.
Joseph,
really? Get ready for the last one, because this one...
Oh, see, I'm scared. Now
My fiance and I requested twin beds when we booked, but instead, we were placed in a room with a king bed. We now hold you responsible and want to be reimbursed for the fact that I became pregnant. This would not have happened if you had put us in the room that we booked.
Didn't nobody tell y'all to have coitus?
Kidding me?
Didn't nobody tell y'all to have coitus, especially unprotected? Y'all, you know what? Nope. 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 No. No. I have all of the biggest question I have is why? Why do I keep opening my DMs from y'all? That is my question. That yeah, on that note, If you celebrate Independence Day, have a wonderful Independence Day weekend. I will see you all again on Tuesday for Conversations with Taz. There will be an incredible lineup of things. There are some topics that people have sent that they wanted discussed on different social media platforms, but after doing some preliminary research, I'm not going to be able to tackle them on those platforms, so I will be tackling them Tuesday on this platform so we can get it all good and out there. And in this week coming up, I will tell you what the next Childhood Rewind feature series or feature film will be. But as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Chill Tuesday, y'all.
White. Yep, caught your ass by surprise. I've been living up in the mirror the whole time. And I know what you did with your right hand. No wonder we out of touch, we can't be the same man. White, wipe it down, white.